Hello everybody, it is I, Leo Hightower, and welcome back to another exciting edition of Leo Reacts To. In this video, we are taking a look at, once again, the angry video game nerd, with his downright hilarious and ridiculous way of swearing and everything. This time around is a reaction video that I've been wanting to do for a while. This one is the Angry Video Game Nerd episode, Hong Kong 97. And I made a reference to this episode in my first reaction video, if you guys remember. Do you guys remember that?
Have rotted your brain?
Oh, hey Santa.
My puppet Santa?
Is
that a copy of Sonic.exe in the background?
But I'm here to save
in that one Hong Kong game?
As you will see, I have the help you
Oh,
need.
hell.
Help? How?
Oh. Well, I think it's time to finally look at that reaction video after all this time. I haven't looked at this reaction video in quite a while, actually. But I've heard about this game before, and not too pleasant, by the way, how, I guess, James describes it. But anyway, let's take a look at this video and see exactly how it plays out. And if you guys like what you see, then leave a like, leave a comment, and tickle the subscribe bell to get notified whenever I upload videos. And if you want to check out the video for yourself, I'll leave a link to it in the description box below. And Angry Video Game Nerd is copyrighted to James Rolfe. James, if you're watching this, I salute you. Kudos to you. But anyway, let's get reacting to this video, shall we? Alrighty. Got the video loaded up, got everything set up, so we are good to go. Alrighty, here we go. This is Leo Hightower reacting to Hong Kong 97. I made a reference to this in my first reaction video, and Sonic.exe. Maybe I'll look at Sonic.exe sometime whenever I get a chance. I know that Some Cummy Johnny and the Super Gaming Brothers, his pals, looked at it, so I'm gonna take a look at it too myself. So, yeah. Anyway, here we go. In 3, 2...
He's gonna take you back to the past to play the shitty games that suck ass. He'd rather have a buffalo take a diarrhea dump in his ear. He'd rather eat the rotten asshole of a roadkill skunk and down it with beer. He's the angriest gamer you've ever heard. He's the angry Nintendo nerd. He's the angry Atari Sega nerd. He's the angry video game nerd.
That song still goes so hard even after all these years. James, never stop using it. Oh, and I got my coffee right here, so...
I've been called upon to take care of business once again. Apparently, there is a game worse than big rigs. Worse than Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Worse than Crazy Bus or Desert Bus. It is known as Hong Kong 97, and I've been getting requests for it up the ass.
Oh, Lord.
The requests are so far up the ass, it's time to shit them out. The game was made for the Super Famicom in Japan, but never saw its way to the rest of the world. This is one title that we definitely didn't get on the Super Nintendo. It was made by Happysoft. Happysoft was most famous for making Hong Kong 97, their one and only masterpiece. On this one occasion, they rose from the depths of hell, excreted this unholy turd onto the earth, and then descended back to where they came.
Dang.
Supposedly, the game was so horrible, it barely even came out on the Super Famicom at all. Stores rejected it, and its release status is a mystery. It's so rare that to this day, not a single cartridge or physical copy has shown up at all. I can't even find a picture of one. So the only way I can experience this game is the same way as the rest of the internet.
Emulate it.
How do you like that soundtrack? That won't get annoying at all. I've heard games with 5-second music loops before, but not with lyrics. There's options for 3 different languages. Strange considering how the game didn't travel very far, at least not until the internet got a hold of it. All right, I'm picking English. We will sell your original SNES games. 1/3 of the gross profit will be yours. Your original SNES games. 1/3 of the gross profit will be yours. We welcome games of any kind. Oh, I bet. So please send us your floppy. Send us your floppy.
What?
Would you like to sell our products at your store? We're looking for dealers worldwide. Enough already. How desperate could they be to sell this game? And I guess still nobody bought it because nobody can find a physical copy. Then finally the title screen appears.
That's Jackie Chan from Rumble in the Bronx. And that's the former governor of Hong Kong from back then. What the what?
Jackie Chan? Apparently Jackie Chan is in the game, who I doubt gave any consent to Happy Soft or was even aware of it. The image is stolen from the film Wheels on Meals. The game was released, made, or at least copyrighted in 1995, but set in the future of 1997. The year 1997 has arrived. A herd of... This can't be real. No. No. Somebody's pulling my leg. A herd of fucking ugly reds? Was a herd of ugly reds too weak? Did they really need the F word to fucking drive home the fucking point? This was before cursing in games was common. I remember how shocked I was when I first played Rambo on NES and saw the word hell. But here, they dropped the F-bomb! They did it! A game made for the Super Famicom! It's the closest you'd ever get to a Super Nintendo game that says fuck.
I remember Metopia and how we could use bad words in it. Oh, Lord. I miss Metopia. I miss it so much, dark on it. It was such a cute and fun little app. But yeah. Oh my gosh. Anyone remember Metopia? Anyone? I used to use it. I thought it was fun. And the music's still going!
And the music is still going. A herd of fucking ugly reds, period, are rushing from the mainland. Crime rate skyrocketed. Hong Kong is ruined. Therefore, the Hong Kong government called Bruce Lee's relative, Chin. Bruce Lee's relative. Just happens to be as skilled as Bruce Lee. Not a brother, a son, or even a cousin. Just some unspecified relative. Doesn't make any sense. Like, if you were related to, I don't know, Michael Jordan, would that mean that you're automatically good at basketball?
Michael B. Jordan. I don't know if they're related or not, or if he even knows how to play basketball professionally, but...
Okay, so Bruce Lee is in the background, the guy at the podium is Chris Patton, former governor of Hong Kong, and over there is Jackie Chan. Which one is Chin? For the Massacre of the Reds, Chin is a killer machine. That's Chin?
Oh, Lord.
It's Jackie Chan playing Bruce Lee's relative Chin. Oh, Chin. What a name. Could it be any more common? Oh, wipe out all 1.2 billion of the red communists. Stop. I can't take anymore. I haven't even seen the game yet.
Oh my gosh.
Wipe out 1.2 billion people. And if I'm not mistaken, in 1995, that would have been the entire population of China.
Wow.
Bruce Lee's relative is so powerful, he's the equivalent of 1,000 nukes. He's gonna murder the entire population of China by breaking their necks. Even when Bruce Lee would take down 20 people, it took him a little bit of time. But now comes Chin. You don't fuck with Chin. However, in mainland China, there was a secret project in progress. A project to transform the deceased Tang Xiaoping into an alternate... It's killing me.
Wow.
So apparently, for the character of Tang Xiaoping, they used an actual image of a real Chinese leader, Deng Xiaoping. Spelled differently, but pronounced very similar.
Wow.
When the game was made, this guy was still alive. Couldn't they have at least had the courtesy to wait for him to die before transforming him into an ultimate weapon? This is the most epic, absurd opening to any video game I've ever seen.
Oh my
Nothing
goodness.
compares. That'd be like if I made a game called New York 2017. Motherfucking demons from the planet Jupiter have arrived through the Manhattan portal. The leader of United States calls upon Master Joe, John Wayne's half-cousin's stepson, to annihilate the 2.5 octodecillion alien scum of the universe. However, on Jupiter's secret moon, a master plan is conceived to resurrect the astro-demonoid Dill Clinton into a mecha doomsday machine. Now that I've digested all that, let's play the game.
Pause. That has to be the most convoluted, ridiculous excuse of a game I could ever even hope to hear about. Seriously. Oh my goodness. And the premise of this game makes absolutely no sense. Oh my goodness. I gotta see how it plays. Anyway. Sorry about that, you guys. Anyway, let's take a look at the gameplay. This is the game?
One hit and the game's over. Why would I expect anything more? No. Oh, please. I hope that's not a real dead body. No, there's no way they'd have such bad taste. That's got to be an actor. Or we're looking at some guy who died on that date and time in 1992. Oh, this couldn't get the Nintendo endorsement? I'm so shocked that this didn't come out on Super Nintendo.
Wow.
Every time you die, it resets the whole game. You have to go through the whole introduction again.
Oh
This is
my
almost
God.
as tedious as Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Great game, but you have to wait through a long, drawn-out game over screen just to get back to the title screen, select your file, and load the game all over again.
Yeah, it does get tedious with Symphony of the Night, and I admit it. I played the original, and I have the PSP remake, so yeah. It does get a little tedious going through that whole entire pause menu and everything like that, especially the game over screen. But yeah. Anyway.
That is some fucking bullshit. But this is a game that isn't even good. Not even close. And no, the song never stops.
Wow.
No sound effects either, just that same loop. Even when the game restarts, it doesn't interrupt it. The song never needs to reboot.
Wow.
It's quite impressive, actually. Nothing can stop that loop. You'll be hearing that in your dreams. So let's talk about what's happening here. Obviously,
It's a shooter
2D
game.
shooter. Nothing more to say. What you see is what you get. Chin's only method of attack is throwing projectiles, because if you're related to Bruce Lee, that means you can shoot white balls. This guy is so good, he does it all with his back turned. Everybody he hits, they don't just die, they burst into an atomic fucking explosion! And it's inside a square, like they just slapped a picture of a mushroom cloud on there.
And the picture of the dead person is a picture of the Reds is a picture of the dead guy or the guy that got knocked out. Why is the background a Coca-Cola image?
Why is the background Coca-Cola?
That's what I asked!
Run out of ideas? Like, what should we put there? Anybody got any ideas? Anybody? Coca-Cola. Alright. You know, there was a movie called Hong Kong 97. It came out in 94, 1 year before this game. That can't be a coincidence. So I'm going to consider this a movie-based game. Just so I can say it has nothing to do with the movie. In less than 5 minutes, the final boss appears. Teng Xiaoping.
That's the final boss? I have to take my glasses for that. What the hell? What?
Played by Deng Xiaoping, who has been transformed into a so-called
What
ultimate
kind of
weapon.
ultimate weapon is
What
that?
kind of ultimate weapon is that? He's just a head!
Yeah!
After you kill him, the game continues and loops endlessly, so there's no real ending to the game. Unless maybe you kill 1.2 billion people without getting hit once, but who would ever try that?
Yeah.
The strange thing is that Deng Xiaoping actually died in 1997. The game predicted the future. In fact, 1997 was the year the United Kingdom returned their rule of Hong Kong back to China. The movie from '94 forecast this in the tagline, 99 years of British rule are about to come to an end. Hong Kong will never be the same. The movie stars Robert Patrick, the T-1000 from Terminator 2, Judgment Day, and Judgment Day takes place
In
in
97.
1997. Part of Deng Xiaoping's ear is sort of cut off. Like when Mike Tyson bit off a piece of Evander Holyfield's ear in 1997. The car, I'm willing to bet, is a Mercedes-Benz in which Princess Diana died in 97. And what was the year
97.
Coca-Cola launched Surge?
97.
And it's no coincidence all my Surge protectors were made in China. Rebooting the entire game after you die, just like Symphony of the Night, 97.
97.
Jackie Chan, Rumble in the Bronx, New York City, the Big Apple. The year Steve Jobs returned to Apple in 97. The unstoppable, unrelenting song is called I Love Beijing Tiananmen, also known as I Love Peking Tiananmen. Peking duck is a famous duck dish from Beijing. And Scrooge McDuck had his 50th anniversary in 97. The game was such a titanic failure. Titanic, the movie from 97. Why was this game's sole purpose to direct us to the number 97? Like the NGC 97 galaxy in the constellation of Andromeda. The Princess Andromeda, who was chained naked to a rock to be sacrificed to a monster. Like Princess Leia and Jabba in Return of the Jedi. The special edition of Star Wars in 97. Oh, fuck, we're back again. Man, I was just trying to get a final answer here, but I went full circle. Like the song that keeps looping. A game that keeps repeating. Maybe it's all about a cycle. An endless cycle. Old shitty games that become new again. The past becomes the future. Birth and death. On and on. It's a cycle of life. The game is the meaning of life. And the thing that keeps life going. Reproduction and food, which becomes shit. The game is fucking shit there.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, there's still more from AVGN, but oh my gosh. That was a piece of crap. Oh my god. Oh Lord. James, don't ever change. Seriously. Oh my god. But, oh my gosh, that was me reacting to Angry Video Game Nerd Hong Kong 97, and wow, that game was a piece of crap. I have not looked at that video in a long time, and I can see why. Holy crap. Oh, in fact, I think there was a documentary about that very video. I gotta see if I can look it up exactly. Pardon my lightning. Yeah, there was an actual video documentary of it from a user by the name of... hold on. And, yeah, The Complete History by Ultra Healthy Video Game Nerd. So, yeah, I'm going to take a look at a little bit of that, because I want to know exactly what was the creator thinking when he made this game. Was he just trying to make something offensive or just something entertaining? But I got to look at this. I got to look at this video. So, bonus video!
You've unlocked the cheat bonus video.
Okay, here's the bonus video, The Complete History of Hong Kong 97 by Ultra Healthy Video Game Nerd. Here we go. In 3, 2... Oh, wait, I almost forgot. This video belongs to a healthy video gaming nerd. I hope he does not mind me reacting to this, so yeah. Anyway, here we go.
Some games are memorable because they're great. Some games are memorable because they're awful. And some games are memorable because the history behind them is so fascinating. Hong Kong 97 is a game that fits into 2 of these 3 categories. I'll refrain from saying which 2. For those who are learning about Hong Kong 97 for the very first time, it was an unlicensed Super Nintendo or Super Famicom game that came out in 1995, when the console was still in its prime. So few copies were made that hardly anyone got a chance to play it or even know of its existence, until it gradually started appearing on emulators years later, and then shot to fame when it was reviewed by the Angry Video Game Nerd. But as his statement indicated,
It's so rare that to this day, not a single cartridge or physical copy has shown up at all.
no one actually knew where the game had come from, or for that matter if it had ever existed in physical form. However, a supposed physical copy surfaced in early 2018, and after some heavy skepticism from the gaming community, it was eventually shown to be one of the original copies of Hong Kong 97. It's time to answer all the questions surrounding one of the most mysterious games in history. Based on an interview with the creator himself, I offer you the complete history of Hong Kong 97.
Okay.
The story begins with an underground journalist named Kowloon Kurosawa. This, of course, is a pen name. Kowloon is taken from the name of a district in Hong Kong. And whether he can be called a bona fide journalist or not is a judgment I'll leave to the viewer. Mr. Kurosawa's journey to becoming the father of the worst game ever began with his love for computers. He bought his first PC at 14 years old. With borrowed money, of course. This was an era when the average person still didn't know how to use a computer, so a junior high school student having his own was quite an accomplishment. With a mere 2 months to pay back the loan, he quickly taught himself the very basics of programming and sold some floppy disks labeled as games at Comic Market. Although realistically, the contents were primitive compilations of text with some images, nothing that could remotely be called a game. Not a good way to build a fan base. Despite this, he continued to work on his coding skills and managed to make a name for himself several years later in 1988 with a simple adventure game called Gomon Master, or literally Torture Master, which he also sold at Comic Market. This time, the game sold enough copies to generate a bit of interest among computer nerds, and thankfully, at least one video of gameplay has been preserved. As an adult, Mr. Kurosawa's love of electronics and underground tech devices often found him rummaging through computer shops in Hong Kong and Southeast Asia. During one of his travels in Hong Kong, while looking for copied Amiga games, he discovered an accessory for the Super Famicom which would come to be referred to as a Magicon. It sat on top of the console with a space to insert a game cartridge on top and a floppy disk drive on the side. With the device, you could copy the data from a game onto a floppy disk and then play the game straight from the disk without the cartridge. Basically, a piracy device. Considering that new Super Famicom games often cost 9,000 yen or around $90, it was a good investment if you weren't concerned about walking on thin ice with copyright laws. Eventually, he started importing the Magicons to Japan and selling them at a profit. It would be just one of countless shady endeavors Mr. Kurosawa took on during his career.
Wow. Jesus.
Piracy was highly looked down on in Japan at the time, and in the early 90s, Nintendo had an iron grip on the console gaming market there. It was illegal to sell unlicensed games, since software that appeared on the Super Famicom would be associated with the Nintendo brand, and they wanted to maintain a family-friendly image. Taking this into account, the customer base was limited, but it was lucrative enough to continue for several years. But one day, he got a cease and desist letter from Nintendo, claiming that Magicons were infringing on their copyright for the cartridge shape of the Super Famicom, and Mr. Kurosawa decided it wasn't worth the trouble to continue circumventing the law. He was out of the Magicon business.
Wow.
Thankfully, selling Magicons wasn't his only means of making a living. During this time, Mr. Kurosawa had also begun writing anecdotes about his travels and encounters with weird people or dangerous situations. He published books full of stories about prostitution, drugs, low-level criminals, and anything that seemed vulgar or sensational, a reflection of his passion for the path less traveled. His books tend to look like shrunken down tabloids, and it's hard to say whether they are the testimony of a worldly traveler or cheap trite meant to play on people's stereotypes that mainland Asia is this primitive and lawless place. It may very well be that Mr. Kurosawa's unique talent is bringing these two worlds together. At some point, a person who had been a fan of Mr. Kurosawa's writing and games contacted him, suggesting they make a game together and sell it in floppy disk format. The person in question had done programming work for several major game companies, including Square and Enix, and for this reason, Mr. Kurosawa can't reveal his name. This seemingly harmless idea would prove to be the seed which grew into one of the most infamous projects in gaming history. The two hit it off, and it was decided Mr. Kurosawa would produce the idea for the game, while the mystery programmer would put it all together into a working product. While Mr. Kurosawa had done some very limited programming of computer games, the Super Famicom was far out of his league, so this was an opportunity to do something big. His idea? Make the foulest, most offensive game the world had ever seen. Ignore all copyright laws, ethics, and expectations for game design. The story for the game would be about the reunification of Hong Kong with mainland China. Exemplifying the negative stereotype that Chinese people are crude and unruly compared to their more sophisticated Hong Kongese counterparts, the dilemma was that the influx of mainland Chinese would sully the landscape and society of Hong Kong. In the face of this disaster, a hero would appear to protect Hong Kong by killing the entire population of communist China.
Wow! Holy crap apples! Oh! I have no words. I have no words. Damn. And he chose to ignore all the copyrights and everything? Well, damn. This guy is nothing but a troll. Ugh. Let me continue and finish up with this.
Good old-fashioned genocide. To build on the utterly tasteless premise, digitized graphics of real people would be used without their permission. In the opening story sequences, the main character, Chin, who is supposedly a relative of Bruce Lee, is depicted as Jackie Chan. Images of Bruce Lee and the Prime Minister of Hong Kong also appear, and the final boss of the game was the severed head of Deng Xiaoping, a former Chinese politician, now reworked into a biomechanical superweapon. And as if to challenge the fates themselves, the game over screen would be a digitized picture of a real dead body with gunshot wounds. By his own account, Mr. Kurosawa spent approximately 3 hours picking out the graphics to be used in Hong Kong 97 and converting them into raw data. They were mostly taken from things he had lying around. The picture of the body used at the game over screen came from a video compilation of footage of people dying, similar to the Faces of Death movies. The song used for the background music was a 6-second sample from a laserdisc he had with Chinese music on it. Pictures of Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee were taken from movie covers or promotional pictures.
Oh, Lord.
Possibly the most impractical decision, yet the one that ended up having the most impact, was to include multiple language options. Mr. Kurosawa asked a friend with some proficiency in English to translate the story, and an exchange student from Hong Kong to provide a Chinese translation. Once everything was ready, he sent the data to his programmer friend, who then wrote up a simple program and put everything into place. The game was an endless single-screen shooter with only 2 or 3 enemy patterns. Background graphics were randomly chosen images of Chinese ads or propaganda, and the 6-second loop of Chinese propaganda-turned pop music played indefinitely as long as the game was on.
Oh, Lord.
Hopefully it goes without saying that this was a completely haphazard project and could never reasonably be called a business endeavor.
Hell no!
The story sequence leading up to the game was just as offensive as Mr. Kurosawa had hoped, telling the player in no uncertain terms the goal of the game is to kill every single person from mainland China. But the game itself was so awful it can barely even be called a video game. Even if you acknowledge the fact that the project was just one big joke and more a form of black humor than a vehicle for entertainment, few people would willingly pay money for such a product and feel satisfied.
Yeah, who would pay money for this? How could anyone pay money for this? Oh my gosh. This is... I can't even... You know what? Ah, I'm speechless. I'm speechless right now, ladies and gentlemen, peeps. I don't know what to say. Holy crab apples. Oh my gosh. And apparently it was offensive enough for him, so I guess they just made it so... Jesus.
But that's just what Mr. Kurosawa expected people to do. He whipped up a graphic image for the game to be printed on a postcard with just as little care as the rest of the game had been given, again cutting and pasting images he had lying around at home, and wrote an article about the game which doubled as an advertisement for a magazine about game copy devices called Game Labo. In order to buy it, you had to get a money order from the post office and mail it to a P.O. box that Mr. Kurosawa was renting. This is the very same address shown on the graphic insert that came with the game. His memory is a little hazy, but the price was either 2,000 or 2,500 yen, or 20 to 25 US dollars.
Wow.
Now remember, not only was it technically illegal to make and sell Super Famicom games without Nintendo's approval, but the disc copier machines needed to actually play the game had also been deemed illegal in Japan after Nintendo caught wind of them. So one small ad in an underground magazine was the only method Mr. Kurosawa had to reach his audience. On top of all that, the reason a person would buy a Magicon in the first place was to copy games for free, or nearly for free. They were already circumventing the law because they didn't want to pay for games.
Wow.
With an already limited audience of the least likely people to buy a game they knew nothing about, Hong Kong 97 sold extremely poorly. By his own account, somewhere in the neighborhood of a mere 30 copies.
Yep.
He had already printed several hundred copies of the graphic insert, but after it became clear there wouldn't be any more orders, he scrapped them. As any rational person could have predicted, Hong Kong 97 was a commercial failure, and it's hard to imagine Mr. Kurosawa was expecting anything more. The game would have slipped into obscurity had it not been for the advent of the internet, and, most importantly, emulators.
Oh lord, emulators.
As home computers became more powerful and internet speeds increased, we discovered as a community that video game hardware could be replicated on a computer, along with the console's games, and thus a technological and moral can of worms was opened that has polarized the gaming industry to this day. It's beyond the scope of this video to go into whether emulators have helped or hurt gaming, and whether using them is right or wrong. The only thing you need to know is, emulated versions of Hong Kong 97 appeared. Since there were so few copies floating around, it's hard to say how it happened, but the game was just data on a floppy disk to begin with, so it wouldn't have been difficult. As obscure Japanese games became more accessible to the average person, gamers keen on trying out odd-sounding titles sometimes ran into Hong Kong 97 and were appalled at how bad it was. Thanks to the inclusion of the English language option, there was essentially no language barrier, and the tasteless, offensive storyline was on parade for all to see. It became something of a myth in gaming circles. The company that supposedly made it, Happysoft, had seemingly never existed, and unless you could read Japanese and had serious internet sleuthing skills, there was essentially no information on the game. Most importantly, there were no copies for sale anywhere, and not a single picture of a physical copy. It was only a matter of time before a game this bad would be picked up by the man who we all rely on for playing the worst games so that we don't have to. The angry video game nerd. After receiving countless requests to review Hong Kong 97, AVGN released his video on the game in 2015, elevating it from a rumor on internet forums to a legend of obscure games. It went from being known by several thousand people to several million people nearly overnight, and Hong Kong 97 was now on the level of things like Bigfoot or Polybius. This gave rise to a bit of a problem. Eventually, people discovered that a man known as Kowloon Kurosawa had developed the game. After making Hong Kong 97, Mr. Kurosawa had moved to Cambodia and returned to his work of traveling to seedy places and writing sensational stories about the dregs of society, being the hard-working adult that he is. He had all but forgotten about his magnum opus. But now, people began contacting him on his social media accounts. They wanted to know where they could get a copy, who the development team was, and, to Mr. Kurosawa's distress, who the dead body was in the game over screen. Sometimes he would receive 10 inquiries in a single day. He clearly never could have imagined the appeal this type of macabre would have to the English-speaking world. Mr. Kurosawa attempted once or twice to engage with some of the people contacting him, but the sheer number was overwhelming, and a lot of the inquiries were garbled nonsense passed through Google Translate or didn't comprehend the gravity of the subject matter. A lot of people didn't seem to understand that it was a crime to have made the game, and giving out names of other people involved in the project would have been thoughtless and even dangerous. And while it's hard to say whether publishing a picture of a dead person without their family's permission is a crime or not, it's the highest taboo in nearly any human society.
Exactly! But who in the right mind would actually want to contact the person who made this thing and actually want to get a physical copy of it, even if it's a ROM? Oh my god, some people in this world are just ridiculous. I wouldn't even pay any money or anything like that to actually play this game. Not even a single cent. It's like the Super Cider 5000 from My Little Pony and everything, and with the Flim Flam brothers and everything. The moment you tasted the cider that they made and everything, you knew it was bad. I wouldn't pay 10 bits for it, or even 5 bits, or 3 bits, or 2 bits, or even 1 bit. Seriously. And they wanted to find out who the picture of the dead body was in the video game. Oh my god. I just oh my god. Peeps, I don't even know what to say. I just, oh my god. Some people who have no taste or morals in this world, and it's just, oh my gosh. Who would want to play this game for that matter, or even for that matter, obscure one? If I saw a game like this and I took a look at it and everything, I probably want to put it down, delete it off, go outside, and reflect on my humanity of all things. I want to reflect on humanity. But we're almost done. Let me finish this video, then afterwards I'll give my final thoughts.
After a while, Mr. Kurosawa decided there was nothing to be gained from trying to interact with the legions of people begging him to reveal the secrets of Hong Kong 97, and he simply chose to ignore them. The fact was, it wasn't advancing his career or bringing in any revenue. It just wasn't the kind of impact he had hoped to make. Hong Kong 97 could have just as easily remained a mystery to English-speaking gamers forever. But then, a miracle happened, and I consider myself lucky to have been a part of it.
A miracle?
I had learned of Hong Kong 97 from the Angry Video Game Nerd like most people, and I had even tried contacting Mr. Kurosawa in Japanese once. But I certainly wasn't on a quest to find a supposed physical copy which may or may not have existed. However, one day in early 2018 when I was browsing the Super Famicom section of Yahoo Auctions, I came across something calling itself Hong Kong 97. When I first saw it, I thought the same thing most other people would think.
It was a fake?
Yeah, right. The thing is, there was nothing to compare it against. No one really knew what a complete copy looked like. It was a floppy disk with what looked like a small instruction booklet, and the Japanese Wikipedia article stated that it had been distributed on floppy disks. The description was sparse and unassuming, but the seller had a perfect score, and the starting bid was only 1,000 yen, or around $10.
Wow.
I figured that, if it did happen to be real, the chance would almost certainly never show itself again. So, I made my decision. If it sold for $500 or less, I would buy it.
Wow.
And when it ended, I was the winner at 35,500 yen, or around 320 US dollars. In my mind at least, I was the owner of the only known copy of Hong Kong 97.
Wow.
A few days later, the game arrived and looked exactly as it had in the pictures on the auction. I discovered what I thought had been an instruction booklet was actually a single postcard with graphics printed on both sides. At the time, I had only been making videos for about 6 months, and I rushed to make a video showing off my discovery. This was it, the legendary Hong Kong 97, visible for the first time ever on the internet. Unfortunately, reception to the video wasn't all positive. A lot of people were turned off by my giddiness, and I didn't say where I had bought it. In hopes of salvaging my reputation, I made a follow-up, saying I had bought the game on an auction and offered screenshots of the conversation I'd had with the seller. I even bought a few of Mr. Kurosawa's books and read excerpts from them, which were often just as foul as his games.
Wow.
But the first video had left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, and it just didn't make the kind of impact I had hoped for. While I was personally convinced of the game's authenticity, there was still the issue of whether it could be played or not. So a few months later, I decided I would buy a Magicon and figure out once and for all whether or not the game could actually be played. I had to order one from Europe since they aren't very common in Japan, and it must have gotten banged up in transit a bit, because when it arrived, it wouldn't play regular cartridges or the Hong Kong 97 disc.
Dang.
This turned out to be a blessing in disguise. I figured the best person to ask about how to get it working would be the man who made a game intended to be played on it, Kowloon Kurosawa himself. I sent him a message on Instagram explaining the situation, and luckily he mailed me back. Before the conversation could progress much further, a person on a Facebook gaming group helped me to get the Magicon working again, and to my amazement, the game started up in all its hideous glory.
Wow.
It was official. I had a working physical copy of Hong Kong 97. I quickly made a video showing that the game worked, and I must have tagged Mr. Kurosawa's name in a post about it somewhere, because he mailed me saying he had seen the video and confirmed that it was, indeed, one of the legendary original copies of Hong Kong 97.
Wow.
This has been an amazing journey for me, quite possibly the highlight of my life as a gamer. I eventually asked Mr. Kurosawa if he would meet with me and explain the entire story behind the game, and he agreed, which is what led to the video you're watching now. He was extremely kind, and even refused to accept payment for the interview.
Okay.
Some people may remember that I had introduced another game supposedly worked on by Kowloon Kurosawa in one of my videos about Hong Kong 97. The game was Minisuke Police for the PlayStation 2, an official release of all things. And at the end of the interview, I discovered that not only had Mr. Kurosawa worked on the game, but he had made it together with the very same person he made Hong Kong 97 with.
What?
Minisuke Police is the closest we will ever get to having a spiritual sequel to Hong Kong 97.
Wow.
So concludes the story of one of the worst, and yet most intriguing video games the world has ever laid eyes on. And to the people wondering who the person is at the game over screen, he doesn't know.
Wow.
He never knew. It was taken from a regular VHS sold at a store, not some underground snuff film. If you desperately want to see people dying, there are videos out there with that kind of footage on them. It isn't unprecedented. When I was a kid, they were out in the recommended viewing section of the video rental shop. It's time for all of us, myself included, to let it go. There is no answer to that question. And it isn't that important in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, let the
So
whole
let's
thing
all
go.
be grateful that we're here, among the living, and try not to let the urge to chase after death impede that.
Yeah. Okay. Oh my gosh. My gosh. That was my reaction to Hong Kong 97 by Angry Video Game Nerd and Ultra Healthy Gaming Nerd, and wow. If they wanted to make something really offensive and I don't know, to play, then the creator definitely did the right thing. But to be truthful and honest, who in their right mind would want to pay $20 or something for a physical copy of one of the worst offensive games ever? Oh my gosh. That'd be like me wanting to basically find a physical copy of Sonic.exe, which I'll probably get into some other time, and actually pay money to actually play the accursed thing. Seriously. I can't even begin to fathom or even understand exactly why anyone would want to do something like that. But, Happy Soft. If you and Happy Soft doesn't even really exist. I guess he just looked up a name for the company, so yeah. But oh my god, my mind hurt. My brain hurts. just trying to put this all together and everything, peeps. So I think I'm just gonna end the video right now. If you liked what you saw, leave a like and comment in the comment section below. Click on the bell to get notified whenever I upload new videos, and I will leave a link to the original videos in the description box below. But oh my god, I felt James at the end of the video. It makes you want to drink a nice beer and everything like that. So yeah, and the person who was the dead body at the end during the game over screen, I don't think it's really healthy to try and look up that information. There probably is a video talking about it and everything, but just let it die already. Just forget about it. But oh well. Anyway, this is Leo Hightower. Thank you guys very much for watching this newest episode of Leo Reacts, and I hope to see all you beautiful sons of guns again next time. Until then, peace out, and stay golden. I gotta think about life, you know, and what we're coming to. Seriously, see ya. Bang. Oh my god.